fertilized egg. You can Google it.
Go ahead. I can tell you it's not a human being.
What is it? Is it a koala bear?
I believe it's a zygote.
What is a zygote? A zygote of what species? Because there's lots of different zygotes. There's koala bear zygotes.
Mm-hmm.
There's elephant zygotes.
Mm-hmm.
What's a zygote?
You have Google, you tell me. And what is your background in medicine and science?
Fertilized egg is an embryo. An embryo is an early stage of development of a multicellular organism. In general, in organisms that reproduce sexually, embryonic development is part of the life cycle that begins after fertilization and continues to the formation of body structures. A fertilized egg is an embryo or a zygote. No matter how you want to call it, that's a member of our human being. You're using a dehumanizing term to dehumanize human beings in the earliest stages by saying, oh, it's just a fertilized egg. A fertilized egg, when sperm meets egg, bam, a unique human life comes into existence with a brand new genetic code that's never existed before and will never exist again. And that new genetic code,
life.
What is it? Is it dead?
It's not alive. It's not a life.
Wait, how can it grow into a baby if it's not alive?
It's not a life.
It's not like, what is it? So it's living,
It's a
but
thing.
it's not a life.
It's a thing. It is a clump of cells.
I'm a clump of cells.
Yeah, and you have life.
I'm a thing.
Yes, and you have a brain, and you have brain waves.
So,
And you have the ability to have consciousness. You can feel pain.
an embryo has the ability to feel consciousness.
Not until
At
the
some
third
point.
trimester.
So now, okay, so what you're saying is your value as a person is based on your functional abilities.
Your
Which is, I think,
bodily
very scary
autonomy
slow.
isn't until you have consciousness.
Who? Says who?
Says the law.
Your bodily autonomy isn't until you have consciousness?
Yes, that is how bodily autonomy works. That is why you are able to harvest organs from people who are brain dead. And
That's not how the law works, because in
And exactly how
PCV
the
Planned
law
Parenthood, the Supreme Court allows abortions to be restricted by states at about 24 weeks, but we know a child, a lot of people would argue that a child at 24 weeks isn't fully cognizant of who he or she is.
Mhm.
So is KCV Planned Parenthood wrong?
People have varying opinions about it. I don't think life begins at a heartbeat. And a heartbeat, Bill, that's not even a heartbeat yet.
It's fetal cardiac pole activity is how you call it?
Yeah, because it's not a heartbeat.
Yeah, it's just part of the heart that's developed.
Yeah,
Because
so it's
the
not
heart
a
isn't fully
heartbeat.
developed
The
till
heart
7
isn't
days.
beating yet.
It's just
It's not pumping blood, so it's
just
not a heartbeat
beating,
yet.
but it's not a heartbeat.
It's just sending electrical impulses, which is not a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked earlier what your medical and
You're-
scientific background was.
I can Google.
What was your medical and scientific
I don't have a
background?
medical and scientific background because I'm
So
a
what are your
smart person and I can
qualifications?
Google.
So you think your Google is better than a doctor or something?
Hell yeah, because you just disputed when 96% of all biologists agree that at the moment of conception, a unique, whole, living human being comes into existence.
They don't believe
You
it's
want to
alive.
call it a fertilized egg.
'Cause
It's
it's not
also
alive.
called, via Google, an embryo or zygote. Those are stages in every person's life. You didn't come from an embryo or fertilized egg. You once were one. And your value today as a human being that makes you irreplaceable was the very same even when you were a fertilized egg or zygote in your mother's fallopian tube. It's the same because it's a slippery slope. If at any moment you start saying, well, I don't believe you have human rights until you have consciousness. I don't believe you have human rights until you fully have the ability to reproduce. You don't have human rights until you're fully grown. That's a slippery slope because every single one of us would come up with a different definition of when human rights begin. And throughout our history, as I pointed out at the beginning of my presentation, throughout history, when you allow people to decide what characteristics deem a human being worthy of life and that life worthy of protection,
We already decided
bad
that with the
things
Terry
happen.
Schiavo case in the Supreme Court, which stated that if you don't have brain waves, then you do not have bodily autonomy legally.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people I know would deeply disagree with what the Supreme Court said, just like how I disagree with what the Supreme Court said in Dred Scott and said that human beings who are black weren't full persons.
Well,
Or
the
the
science backs
Supreme
this up.
Court said that in Plessy v. Ferguson that, yeah, you can have separate but equal, sounds good to us. Or what the Supreme Court said in Roe v. Wade, the unique whole living human being doesn't have the rights to be protected. I disagree with a lot of Supreme Court rulings. And by the way, what's the Supreme Court's background on science? Because I'm pretty damn sure in Roe versus Wade, the 7 men that ruled in Roe versus Wade literally started out the decision saying, we're not scientists or philosophers here.
I wish scientists were the ones that were making these decisions.
And me too,
not
because
men.
96% of them agree
They don't.
that human life begins at the moment of conception. The question is that human life valuable? You're like arguing yourself in a way it doesn't sound great for you.
Excuse me?
You just denied like science to everyone here. It is a life. It is a member of our species.
That is what
That is
your opinion says
undisputed.
that it is a life.
What you're arguing is
every
that life doesn't
scientist.
have value. Let me help you. You're arguing that life doesn't have value. That a woman's life has more value than your own.